So here in the US, preparedness is kind of framed like having 3 days of food and water. And yes, that's the official recommendation. It's the minimum baseline. But you know, in other parts of the world, well, preparedness doesn't stop at that number. Instead, people have a preparedness pantry, food that's available in case, well, stores are empty or deliveries delayed or something unexpectedly happens. And in those cases, it's not panic, right? It's just normal. Let me ask you something. Why in the United States, if you have more than 3 days food and water, you're considered paranoid? But in other countries, it's just considered being responsible. So in many places around the world, preparedness isn't about the fringe. It isn't political. And it's definitely not what some people whisper about or mock others for doing. Today I want to show you how some other countries prepare and what can we learn from that. Because here's the truth. You don't have to have a bunker, a tactical vest. Preparedness does not have to be dramatic. It just has to be effective. So we're going to look at 5 countries, different cultures, different climates, and often different risks. But each one takes preparedness seriously, but maybe in a little different way. And as I go through them, I'll try to have one key takeaway from each country that you can use and apply right at home. So we're going for no fear, no hype, just smart planning. Let's start with Taiwan. Now, Taiwan has promoted household preparedness for years. I mean, it's a consequence, right, of existing right across from China and having typhoons, tsunamis, and maybe even a possible military invasion. But in Taiwan, they've made some of the emergency preparedness kits, I would say, more approachable. Just look at these. These are cute ones. These are pet emergency preparedness kits, which include such items as collapsible bowls, a water feeder, and a kitty litter scoop. The difference here is preparedness is not marketed as survival, rather as individual responsibility. They expect each citizen to have their own go bag. So I think one of the takeaways is prep gear doesn't have to look intimidating. It doesn't have to be in military-like go bags or backpacks. Instead, it should just include the items you need to prepare and not to forget your pets. Now, Japan also has a lot of natural disasters such as earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, and even a nuclear disaster. And yet, panic is not the default response. And why is this? Well, it's because preparedness is taught early and often. Children participate in drills at school, families practice evacuation routes, and households do keep prepackaged emergency bags, not because they're scared, but because it is expected. And Japan even has a word for this mindset. It's called bosai, which means disaster prevention. Their whole approach is knowing what to do when a disaster happens. So what's our key takeaway here? Well, it's simple. Practice beats panic. Better to have a simple, well thought out plan than expensive emergency preparedness gear that you've never even tried out. And in Switzerland, they don't really talk about emergency preparedness. They just do it. Did you know that Switzerland has around 370,000 nuclear fallout shelters? That's right, enough to protect over 100% of its citizens. And it's the only nation with complete coverage like that. And the government encourages households to keep emergency food reserves, not just 3 days worth. You know, it's no drama, no social media cycles. It's just a national assumption that self-sufficiency matters. And it isn't about paranoia, right? It's about continuity. They have been doing this for years and years and years. Systems won't collapse because households can function independently for a period of time. So here, to me, the key takeaway is preparedness works best when it's built into your daily life. You just need tried and true systems that work. And Sweden did something recently that shocked a lot of us here in America. A year ago, the government mailed every household a guide called If Crisis or War Comes. And this was an update of the classic Cold War pamphlet that now includes advice on war, terror, cyber threats, disinformation, and even climate events. No hysteria, just clear, calm instructions. It outlines how long should households be self-sufficient and what supplies matter most and how communities should respond together. So, no panic, just being prepared. Because when information is transparent, fear, I think, has less room to grow. So our takeaway, I think clarity reduces fear. You just need straightforward guidance. And our last country is Finland. And it has a long land border with Russia. I think it's 830 miles. So, yeah, they definitely work on preparedness. And one of the things they believe is you can't be a lone wolf. It takes a community to be truly prepared. Now, the nation itself maintains stockpiles like 9 months of grain, 5 months of oil, and aims for high self-sufficiency. But what they emphasize is community preparedness. Neighbors helping neighbors, shared shelters, coordinated plans. Yes, households prepare individually, but the resilience is collective. Because you know, during long disruptions, be it winter storms, infrastructure failures, you know, isolation becomes a liability. So, takeaway here, preparedness scales better when it's shared. Knowing who nearby needs help and who can offer it is just as important as what's on your shelf. So to me, all of these countries have something in common. They don't treat preparedness as something extreme. They treat it as normal. No one's waiting for the collapse or the apocalypse. They're preparing for inconveniences, be it power outages, storms, supply disruptions, or yes, even military invasion. And to me, that mind shift is huge. You know, preparedness is not about fear of the future. It is about confidence in the future. Now, to be fair, all the countries I've mentioned, well, they're probably, you know, equal to only one size state in the United States. I mean, we are big, right? And most of our disasters are regional, be it hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, wildfires. It doesn't affect the entire country. You know, if I'm thinking, the only time we had a whole nationwide emergency response was during World War I and World War II. And even then, we did not have military invasion in our country the way some of these countries did during that same time period. And I think here in the US, many people still assume emergency preparedness is primarily the government's responsibility. But we all know the reality. Agencies like FEMA are designed to support communities, not instantly meet the needs of 1 million people or more. You know, the resources, well, they take time to arrive. And what happens when multiple disasters happen at the same time? Well, help can be stretched mighty, mighty thin. I wish we were more like Finland. Their approach is preparedness is a team effort. Government, even businesses, and citizens all play a role. And everyone understands their part before a crisis happens. So here in the U.S., I think our emergency preparedness, well, it lacks that cohesiveness. And that's not a failure of individuals. I think it's how we think about preparedness. To me, being prepared does not mean expecting the worst. It means understanding that resilience works best when responsibility is shared. So to me, that's the prime takeaway from these other countries. What did you get from this video? Or is there any takeaway that you can apply to your own preparedness plan? Drop a comment below. And if you want more practical, no panic preparedness ideas, subscribe to this channel and make sure your notification button is hit. Because to me, being prepared does not mean living in fear. It means I just can sleep easily at night. So, thanks for watching this, and as always, share the knowledge.